discourse analysis because we are supposed to talk about models of discourse analysis for the analysis of text. So let's come back to the slides. First of all, we'll be talking about what is discourse analysis, and then what is critical discourse analysis, what are the aims and objectives of CDA, and how to do CDA. So if I talk about sequence of slides, so first of all we'll be talking about Norman Fairclough's framework, then approaches to CDA and common points, then approaches to CDA plus differences, and we'll be talking about key theorists and linguists. So if I talk about what is discourse, so discourse word comes from the Latin word discursus, which is denoting conversation, speech, written and spoken communication. In linguistics, a unit of language longer than a single sentence, which is longer than a single sentence, it is discourse. So broadly speaking, use of spoken written language in a social context is basically called as discourse. So what is the difference between a common statement and a discourse? That while talking about discourse, we are very much concerned about the social context in which that utterance has been happening. So, Crystal says in 1992, discourse is a continuous stretch, especially spoken language larger than a sentence, often constituting. So, it comprises coherent units such as sermon, argument, joke, or a narrative. So, whenever there is a language which is, like um, a larger contextual one, and which is constituting a coherent unit as well. This is called discourse. So what is discourse analysis? It is a broad term for the study of the ways in which language is used in texts and contexts. So when the language is used in text and the context, this is called discourse. This analysis of a language in use, the language which you use, we analyze them above a sentence level. This is the domain of discourse analysis. So language with relation to society and culture. So as earlier I talked about, that the social and contextual phenomena are very important for discourse analysis. So the term critical is associated with the Frankfurt School of Philosophy, the Marxist thoughts, and later it has been emerged from the critical linguist at the University of East Anglia in 1970s, based on a Michael Halliday's systematic functional linguistics. Language is a social act, as we had already talked extensively about Halliday and its major concepts about functional linguist, systematic functional linguist. So basically the emphasis is on language as a social act. So it was first developed, as CDA is first developed by Lancaster School of Linguistics in England. Norman Fairclough in 1941, an emeritus professor of linguistics at Lancaster University, and has been considered as one of the founders of CDA as applied sociolinguists. So it provides basically multiple theories and methods for the empirical study of the relations between discourse and social and cultural developments in different social domains. So CDA basically, it's a window. It's a window which is an empirical in nature in terms of study, because it is concerned with how power is exercised through language. The emphasis is that to analyze the strength of the language and its power. What is the objective of CDA? It's definitely to help and reveal some of the hidden values, positions, perspectives, social and cultural issues such as race, politics, gender identity, and to ask why the discourse is used in particular way and what the implications are of this kind of use. So doing CDA involves 3 steps. Number 1 is the analysis of the use of discourse. First one is the analysis, second one is the explanation and interpretation of that discourse being subjected to discuss, and the third one is the deconstruction of that text. So when you deconstruct that text, actually you systemize the language. Let's talk about Fairclough's framework. It is called Textually Oriented Discourse Analysis, TODA. His three-dimensional model is very famous. Number one is the text, the very basic and core product of his framework. Text refers to the process of production. Second one is the discursive practice, that is the process of interpretation. Discursive is practice means that the text which is being given, you need to follow certain steps to interpret that text. And the third one is the context, which refers to social practices, the process of explanation. So three-dimensional model of Norman Fairclough refers to text, discursive practice and context, which includes the social practices. Text is the basically the process of production, discursive practices is the process of interpretation, and context social practice refers to the process of explanation. This is actually the visuals of these are the visuals of Fairclough's model, which has been presented in 1992. You can see that this is the text, and this is the where this is the process of production is happening, and this is the text, and this is the discourse practice. Okay, further, which is called discursive practices as well, the second domain. And the third one is the larger context, is the socio-cultural practice. So whenever there is a text, we see that how the text is processing and or further producing. And the second one is that how what is the process of that interpretation, which is the discursive practice. And the third one, when you analyze the first two steps with the help of situational, institutional, and societal norms or the backgrounds. So, text is basically the description, that is the text analysis, and the second part is the interpretation when you process that analysis, and the third part you explain it but in the context of society, in the context of that organizational, institutional, societal norm. So, this is the Norman Fairclough's three-dimensional model. Let's talk about multiple approaches to CDA. There are multiple approaches, but in our course we are concerned with the two major models. Number one is the Norman Fairclough and the second one is Van Dyke. So this is an additional information you must understand, know that number one is the dialectical relational, which is given by Fairclough. Second one is the socio-cognitive, which is Van Dyke. So we are concerned with these two approaches in your course of BS English. But the third approach is the discourse historical, which is being given by Ruth Wodak, and the fourth one is the social actors, which is given by Van Leeuwen, and then fifth approach is the dispositive analysis, which is being given by Foucault or Fouquet. So, if I talk about approaches to CDA, there are very common points. Number one is that linguistic discursive. It talks about language and context. Number second is about discourse is both constitutive. For example, constitutive means that it constitutes what? The social world and by the other social practices created by that constituted one. Third one is the language use. It should be empirically analyzed within its social context. And number fourth is the discourse, which creates agents and subjects, which talks about production force as put up by the Foucault. And the fifth one is CDA is not neutral but politically committed to social change. There are multiple approaches to CDA. Differences as number one is the difference of the theoretical understanding of discourse, and then ideological perspective, historical perspective, and methods for its empirical study. These are the key theorists and the linguists, which I had already talked about them. You just read them out. And this is it for today's class. Three-dimensional framework model of Norman Fairclough, and I'll be further talking about it, inshallah.